Expo 86 was held to celebrate the city's centennial anniversary and attracted over 22 million visitors from around the world over the 5-month event. It was a major economic boost for the city as it generated millions of dollars in revenue and helped put the city on the map as a major international destination. It was Vancouver's moment to shine and inspired a number of major infrastructure projects, including the construction of the SkyTrain, Canby Bridge, Science World, BC and Canada Place to name a few. It even changed our liquor laws. Before Expo 86, pubs were not allowed to sell liquor on Sundays. Temporary changes were put in place to allow it, and now the changes are not so temporary. With all this new attention, investors took notice. Concord Pacific ended up purchasing the entire 82-hectare waterfront expo site for $320 million in 1988, with a caveat. The province was responsible for the environmental cleanup of the lands, which had largely been rail yards and mills. It's estimated the cleanup cost around $200 million. Essentially, a fifth of Vancouver's downtown, arguably the most valuable strip, was sold for a measly $120 million. And even that math has been contested. Some say the sale did not generate any income for the province. But what it did bring was people. Vancouver's population grew by 22% over the coming decade. That's twice as much when compared to Canada as a whole. Construction on the lands began in the early 90s. The first towers introduced to the market sold out in days, using the then novel concept of pre-sales. The idea, now common practice, was actually imported from Hong Kong. Much like many of the early investors, Vancouver began to see an increase in foreign buyers, particularly from Asia. But this was the plan all along. Vancouver before Expo 86 was a sleepy seaside village of a town. It was not a major international destination like it is today. The reason Expo 86 was held on False Creek was because it was underdeveloped and unwanted. Vancouver was seeking investment. Outlets such as the Congressional Quarterly reported the government and some Vancouver business leaders want to help make Vancouver a thriving international financial center and perhaps a tax haven. Along with the influx of foreign buyers, immigration policies shifted to allow Canada to begin importing wealth and millionaire immigrants from Taiwan, Hong Kong, and since the 2000s from mainland China. Before Expo 86, foreign ownership was around 1%, and over time, it eventually creeped up to 5% after 2010. But let's be clear, it wasn't only the wealthy coming to Vancouver. My family also immigrated here in 1988, and we were anything but. My parents could hardly speak English, they had no connections whatsoever, and they did not have the luxury of being able to buy property when they came to this country. That would take nearly a decade later. So if it wasn't for Expo 86, who knows where I would have ended up. A few short months after my family settled in Vancouver, I was born.